Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Muscle News. My name is Kevin Grech, and today we have a real special guest, Tim Wilkins. How are you, Tim?
Hey, Kevin, I don't get to be a special guest often, so thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, no, I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. You're the middle guy on Olympia TV, keeping everybody at bay, you know?
I am a babysitter, ringleader, a speed
Yeah,
bump, anything you want to call it between
yeah,
Tarek and Chris going after each other.
yeah, yeah. Well spoken, you get your point across. We'll talk about that later. And I just wanted people, even myself, to get to know you better because you've been around for a while now. And some people like might say, like they tell our friend Bob, who the hell is Bob? Who's Tim? In a nice
Yeah,
way, you know?
yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
So
Uh, yeah, I just emceed the Legions for
yeah,
Christmas over the weekend in Reno. It was an awesome show. Great to
yeah,
see so many people and be there for Tonio Burton and
of
Colossus
course.
Ken and
Crazy.
Blessing. But I had a lot of people come up and say, "Oh, you're really good at this.
Yeah,
How long have you been doing it?"
yeah,
27 years?
yeah, yeah. Now,
27 years.
I mean, I've been following the sport practically my whole life. I mean, I'm going to be 55, and to be honest, I haven't seen you around. Either you've been behind the scenes or, I mean, or with the Olympia TV, you just came out more, like everybody
Yeah.
saw you, you're out there now, I mean, you've been emceeing and stuff like that or competing. And it's just that not too many people knew about you. So I said, this would be a great thing to get to know about the people that work behind the scenes,
Thank
so
you.
yeah, that because I really appreciate all the work people do, behind the scenes. So let's start off. Obviously, uh, you were in the Marines, I guess, right?
Yes. From late 86 to around 1990. So yeah, I'm your age. Uh,
Okay.
I'll be 57 this year.
So
So
you're 80, so you're about 18 when you got in.
18, mom had to sign me up. That's if you're under 18, your parents have to sign for you in the States. So
Wow. Wow.
yeah, I was not I was not didn't have the discipline to go to college and get through it.
Okay.
Didn't have the grades to get in either, so it didn't help.
Yeah.
And definitely I was always fascinated by the military and I knew I loved it and I wanted to serve, but I for the first time in my life I chose the hardest way. And I
Okay.
wanted to do the hardest thing to prove I could do it.
Wow. I mean, I'm Canadian, so it's not something that that they push you into or they like there's not it's the same. I mean, like I thank you. Even though I'm Canadian, I thank you for your service because you guys do a good job for everybody in the world. All right. And
Thank you.
um like just getting into something like that, I mean, you know y- it can get dangerous or it can get, I mean, did you have, I mean, you're so
No,
young.
I will say I signed up for whatever danger came my way, but I'll say, a lot of guys, there's a thing in the States called stolen valor, where people will say they did more exciting things than they did. They'll
Yeah,
take credit for
yeah,
fights
yeah,
they were never
yeah,
in.
yeah.
My greatest contribution to the Marine Corps was finding, as a recruiter, finding better people than myself to wear the uniform after I left.
Wow.
I
Wow.
saw, as I was a comedian for 30 plus years, I got to go over and do shows for the troops in Afghanistan and Kyrgyzstan and
Wow.
Iraq. So
Wow.
I saw more combat and combat zones
Yeah.
as a comedian than I
Yeah.
did as a Marine.
Yeah, but you did your job and you kept them happy and laughing, during hard times. So
It's
yeah.
an honor. It's an
Yeah.
honor
Wow.
I can never really convey
Yeah.
properly
And
because to be
I
able to go, oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, when I found out, I said, "Wow," I mean, like the story behind, some people you don't hear about these things, like Cedric McMillan as well. He was really dedicated as well to being a soldier or
He was a soldier, and
yeah,
the interesting thing, a lot of people, when a competitor's off, everybody in the internet's got their 2 cents.
yeah,
But when
yeah,
Cedric was off, it was maybe he was 3 weeks out on some campsite, some
yeah,
bivouac, they
yeah,
call it, eating whatever food he can. You don't
yeah,
have a way to do your egg whites and chicken and
of
oatmeal in
course,
the morning.
of
So
course,
he would train as hard as he could, eat
yeah,
as good as he could, but he had already
yeah.
committed to a show and he showed up his best.
Wow. And so when you finished the Marine, when you you left the Marine Corps. Um, you had to obviously settle back into normal life, I guess. And is that point when you started training, or did it start before?
I started training as a teenager.
Okay, like we all
It didn't
did.
help much, but
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I graduated. I graduated boot camp at 6 feet tall, 147 pounds. So basically, I look like one of those things that you use to get your keys out of your car when you have
yeah,
to slide it down into the window.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but my first competition was just before I turned to, I was late 18, 19. So my first competition was like in 1988, 89.
Okay,
And I had no business being naked on stage.
yeah,
None. I had no muscle tone to speak of. I had basically push up and sit up muscle.
yeah.
Uh, but I wanted to compete. I loved body. We used to sneak down to Muscle Beach in Venice and
Wow.
look into golds. We look over the rails. We knew some people. We had our favorites. We'd go watch people like Anja Longer work out, and it was just I loved bodybuilding from an
Wow.
early age.
So I forgot to ask you. So you were brought up in
California.
California? Wow, wow. So that must have been amazing. That was the peak of like the other gold, like the golden era of
Golden
bodybuilding.
era. Well,
Yeah,
and you had guys, I was 20, 21, 22 when I was really starting to make some headway, but obsessed with the sport.
yeah,
And Sean Ray is a couple years older, or maybe close to about the same age,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
we were fascinated that someone our age could look that good. And it gave us,
Yeah,
I grew up one county over from Sean, and we were fascinated with him.
yeah, amazing. I mean, I'm a bit younger than you, and living in Toronto, like I always say, every time the Olympia ended, I used to take my bike. I wasn't 16 yet, I couldn't drive. I would take my bike and go to the Muscle Max store and see the pictures of Lee Haney in black and white on the window. And I said, so Lee Haney won. And Gaspari came second or whatever.
Oh,
Because we had
wow.
to wait. We had to
Yeah.
wait. You had to either wait for that magazine to come in the mail, the Flex,
Three
or
months later.
yeah, yeah, you wouldn't know. So it was a different, it was more, I see it was more exciting back then.
Oh,
Today
yeah.
everything's in your face. It's like
Yeah.
you don't have to wait for something anymore, or the excitement's always there. So that must have been an amazing time to grow up in California, seeing all those stars and
Well, one of the things I did as a job when I started in comedy, so out of the Marines, I did a couple
yeah,
jobs. I realized my dream since I was 6 years old was to be a comedian.
okay,
One of the things I did just to make ends, you work during the day because comedy only happens at night.
exactly.
So my friend had this powerhouse gym in Chatsworth, and it happened to be about 2 miles away from where Weider headquarters was.
Wow,
So they were bringing in the greatest photographers with the greatest
of
physiques
course,
of 1990 to 90, 91, 93 when I was working there.
crazy.
And it was amazing. And a lot of them lived in the valley, so they all trained because we were the
Yeah,
best gym in the valley.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was incredible to see those
Wow.
guys.
So literally, you grew up with history
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Oh. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I used to see when I saw you the first time, I said, how does this guy have all this knowledge, of but
I got to be honest.
now
When I see somebody on the internet say, "Who the hell is Tim Wilkins?" I say the same thing a lot. Who
yeah,
was this guy? Seriously.
yeah,
One of my friends, he's been my mentor in comedy for the last 33 years. He's a little Italian guy, and he says I remind him of this movie with I think it was I'll think of the actors. It was called Donnie Brasco. And
okay,
Donnie Brasco is the real story of an FBI mole who
yeah.
infiltrated the
I
mob.
watched it.
And
Yeah.
every time I get deeper into bodybuilding, he says, "You're Donnie Brasco. You're doing the Olympia again." They fell for it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So obviously you started training. We all had that dream that we're going to be Mr. Olympia. And obviously, I mean, I started training very young as well. Um, obviously these smaller gyms. And then finally, when I started driving, I used to train. I don't know if you remember him, Henderson Thorne.
Oh
He was
yeah,
a Canadian champion. And
yeah.
what's her name used to train there as well, Laura Cravel.
Oh
That
Lord.
that was that
Now
that
she was
was
from
my
the
freak out
islands.
moment when I was still like 17, really skinny guy just starting to train. But then I'll tell you, I'll talk to you about that when we get into the segment that we're gonna get into after everything. I'll let you know about that. But that was amazing, training with in a gym owned by a pro, and
Yeah.
it was incredible, and he was a really nice guy. He still is, but I mean, I haven't seen him in years. I mean, and it was fantastic, a fantastic experience. So eventually you built yourself up to hopefully compete.
Yeah. There was a lot of survival years. Had a couple
Yeah.
kids, had to
Yeah.
travel a lot as a comedian,
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
always have access to the food, the training, the whatever it was. I stayed fit.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's it. That's
and
it.
and did as good as I could. In 1998, I was about to have my second child. My wife was. I was just watching. I had a part, but I didn't have the child. And I really had to branch out of stand-up comedy because I had reached the top of the amount that I could make at that level.
Okay.
And my mentor, Carmen, said, "Hey, write some jokes about something you love and try to work in that industry. So you love bodybuilding, go write some bodybuilding jokes."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wrote about 15 minutes worth of bodybuilding jokes. I drove from Florida to North Carolina about 11 hours, did the show, took about an hour and a half nap, and woke up and drove the 9 hours to the Arnold Classic. And I was going to sleep on my friend's floor, use his tickets to watch the show in row double Z, and just be there. And I was going to walk around the expo and hand out business cards and the horrible flyers I made on
Yeah.
on word art with the curvy
Yeah.
words.
Yeah. The blue ink.
The blue ink.
Yeah.
And I got in the elevator after getting it, took a shower, had the buffet, got in the shower at the host hotel, and I get in the hotel in the elevator with three girls with sweatpants on and a woman in a mink coat and a floor length fur coat. And the three girls with sweatpants, it said Jantana down the side of their
Oh
pants.
God.
And I turned around, I said, I'm guessing you're Jantana.
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, how did you know that?" I said, "Because you're the only one not wearing your name." And I'm twirling my keys, and she goes, "Well, sweetie, you have a car? Could you drive us to the expo?" Well, sure I can. And on the
Yeah.
way there, she asked me why I was there.
Yeah.
I said, "I'm here to meet people and maybe get some work, host some shows." And she
Yeah.
said, "Well, I have a show you can host.
Yeah.
It's the Jantana Classic Masters Mr. Olympia. Would you like to do that one?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yes, I would.
I've met her a number of times. She's a very nice lady.
Lovely woman. Well, she broke me into the industry.
Wow. Wow.
And then within a year and a half, I was the onstage MC of the Mr. Olympia weekend with the men's night. So that was where I first met Laura, even though I was a huge fan of all of her recipes in Muscle and Fitness magazine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got to host both nights, the Friday and Saturday night of the Olympia for about 3 years.
Wow. It's amazing how some people help you, give you that push into the industry. I mean, for me, it was when I started my website about 13 years ago. I don't know how he phoned me from Messenger, I think, or something. Kevin Levroni called me.
Oh,
And hey, bro, he said, I just wanted to talk to you and all this stuff. And we remained really close friends. I mean, really close. I used to travel to Poland to meet him because he's in Poland all the time because of his supplement brand and and then as well, Sean Ray had a big part as well. We met at, many many times at the Arnold in Europe and stuff like that. So it's certain people, and I mean even I forgot a part. Dan Solomon gave me that big push to go abroad at my first major competition. So,
that's
I
awesome.
went representing his company. Back then it was Digital Muscle.
Digital muscle.
And
Yeah.
that was the first time I went to that was after I went to the Liveroni Classic, the Arnold Classic Europe back then, before the split or whatever. That was a huge show. And that's when I met Arnold for the first time, so I met him on the escalator going down. He was leaning on my back, and I didn't even know going down the escalator before all the security threw us apart. So I managed to
Yeah.
get a picture of him back then. So that was amazing. That was amazing. And but it's nice when somebody like Jan Tana, gives you that push. What would have happened if you never met her in that lift, in the
Nothing
elevator?
may have ever happened from there, and I wouldn't be in the sport for 27 years.
That's it.
And then uh, I kind of forced my way into the next level, but the vast majority of everything else I've had from there, I'll pan up here a little bit.
It's all right.
You see that movie poster for Bigger?
Yeah, you were
Right
in
up there.
bigger.
I was in Bigger. Uh,
Really?
Chick and I were the side stage announcers during the Olympia
Ah,
where Arnold had his debut and
yeah.
beat Sergio.
Okay.
And everything that I've had since then rests squarely on Dan Solomon.
Wow.
Primetime muscle, bigger. Dan is like one of those movie stars you see that has his group of other stars he likes to work with and
Yeah.
producers that he
Yeah.
knows is going to work every time, and
Yeah.
it's plug and play. And he's
Yeah.
so genius. You find the team that will
Yeah.
do anything for you because they admire and respect you, and that's
Exactly.
been Dan for me for
Yeah.
25
I,
years.
I've been listening to Dan since he had the bodybuilding show with Bob Ciccarello way back, which was still for me amazing because they used to get those sound bits and throw them at the Olympia press
Yeah,
conference and get everybody fighting with each other, you know. So I've been following them, Bob and Dan, since then, all the way till now. So it's like, you grow up with these guys, you get old with them, practically
yeah,
almost the same age, you know.
yeah,
So, and it's like, even when I talk to Dan many times, we don't talk about bodybuilding for the first 10 minutes. It's how's your
yeah,
son? How's your daughters? How's the wife?
yeah.
Everybody, it's because, you build a relationship, with these people. And even, it's like, that's something that bodybuilding gives is different, I think, than other sports. You get to know people all over the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure that, you have your connection, you know a lot of people. And it's one of the positive things of the sport, that I
Dan's been interesting. I'm sure you can attest to this. From when he's a guy who always loved the sport, who had dreams of being a
yeah,
broadcaster and doing the
yeah,
things.
yeah,
But to watch him, and I don't want to be even remotely condescending, to watch him mature into this elder statesman ambassador that he's
yeah,
become, where
yeah,
he always has the right words to say at the right
yeah,
time that
yeah,
makes a deal or makes a
yeah,
situation smooth
yeah,
over.
yeah,
The immature me that's the 30-year comedian wants to say something smart and cause problems
yeah.
and, and
It's
stomp my
true.
feet.
It's
And
true.
he leads, and I will say it's an interesting sense of leadership
Yeah,
when someone will call you up when you've messed up, as I'm sure we'll discuss later.
yeah,
And someone will just say, "Hey, I'm not going to agree or disagree with you, but I hold you to a higher standard." And
yeah,
you need those friends in your life that aren't about bodybuilding. They aren't about anything else. They just tell you
yeah.
in life, I expect more from you because I respect you. And that's the
Yeah.
in the ass a lot of
Yeah.
grown-ups need.
No, I mean, writing about, but I used to, I mean, I calm down now, but I used to write a lot about certain things in the sport. Maybe you heard about me or whatever, but
Yes.
as you get older, you calm down, you burn some bridges, you build them again. But, Dan wasn't the type, he isn't the type, not was he isn't the type to, send you a message or an email or messenger. He'll call you, and he'll tell you, listen, what the hell are you doing, or can you fix that? Or you took it, you had a good idea and it should have been like that, or he it's you learn a lot,
Yeah.
from this,
Outside
and
of my recent incidences, I'll look down at the phone and go, "Hey, it's Dan." And this
yeah.
time, oh,
What did I do this week?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Or what like, I mean, to not, I mean, I wish we should have to do a show with Dan one day, but he if something really major happens in the sport, good or bad, I'll send him and say, Dan, then what are you gonna say? He just leaves it.
Yeah.
Then he just comes out a month later or something and says what he has to say, and that's it.
But that's
Silence kills.
that's the ambassador, the elder statesman
Yeah,
to it. That's so
yeah,
impressive that
yeah.
you just can't help but go, I respect that. Nice
Yeah, yeah.
work.
He just, or like, aren't these guys getting sponsors or something? And then in 1 week, he'll just say, boom, 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 and they'll probably be all ready, you
Yeah.
know. There's not this, after a second, you start typing it up or putting it on social media. Everything's done at the right time, really calm, and that's how it should be. That's it.
Well, I'm
Us,
happy to
me,
say,
we'll be
at,
hotheads. We say them things there and then, but
yeah,
that's
I'm
what.
happy to say at my age, my legs might not be responding anymore, but my character's still growing.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
might get frustrated by the phone call at first, but I hang up. I go, Yeah, I needed that. I
Yeah,
needed
yeah,
that.
yeah. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Obviously, I watch almost all. I don't, if I even watch them backdated, all the shows on Olympia TV. And when that episode came out, I was like, there was that famous episode. I sent him a message. I said, Dan, my God, either Tim had a bad day or I don't know what's happening. I said, this is really out of character. He said, don't worry, don't worry, everything's fine. I said, all right, that's good. And
Well,
you know, and then we'll get to it later. You didn't come out right away. You left a couple of days go by, or I don't know how long it was.
it was a
So
couple.
yeah, so it was good. You did your part, and everything was settled. But um, you know, we'll get to that. So next up, all right. When was your first major competition with the
For
MPC?
hosting or for competing?
Competing.
Competing. So, gosh, it's so brutal. Like you talk about, you'd want to get on your bike and ride down.
Yeah,
You want to go to the gym after the
yeah,
Olympia.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I'd been hosting, and I was up to the point where I was emceeing about 10 to 15 shows a year, and it was just killing me. I wanted to be on stage so
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
And I was 46, I want to say. No,
Wow.
44, 45 when I finally decided to get back on stage.
To get
Um,
back on app, because the first time you
was
don't
it
calculate that one.
88, 89?
Or yeah, yeah,
No.
yeah,
And even then, now I joke about the one in 88, 89. There's a great series of progressional pictures my trainer sent me, my coach, that did like 5 of my 7 preps. And even the first show, I had no business being on stage. And I went on stage and I was 6th out of 5. And I walked off and they medal 5. I walked off and I said to my wife, I'm going to do this again next year and I'm going to get a medal. Even if it's 5th, I'm going to beat one guy. And if I
yeah,
if I take 5th and there isn't 6 guys, I'm going to do it again until I beat a guy and then I can quit.
yeah, yeah,
And then I went back that year, took a couple thirds and fourths, and I said, you know what? I want to win this now. I want to win just one. So
yeah.
I took another year off at like 48, 49, did another one, took a bunch of firsts and seconds. And then I said the dumbest thing I've ever said. Honey, let's go to nationals. So so I
But
go to Masters Nationals and I walk in the first day and there's 1,000 buttons of numbers on the
yeah,
table.
yeah,
And I said, wow, this is a big week. And they said, that's your day.
yeah,
And I ran out in the lobby and I called my trainer. I said, come get me. We're leaving. And he said, you get
yeah,
back in there and you get your number.
yeah.
Well, I took a, a top 5 in the over 45 and the over 50. And I walked out to my wife and I said, that's it. That's my dream. I took top 5 in a national show. This is
Wow.
so cool.
Yeah.
And she said, you did not train as hard as you did for 4th and 5th.
Wow.
Get your ass back on that treadmill and I'll see you next year. So
Wow.
I chipped my way up the food chain and last year came one spot away from the pro card.
Ah,
And now I just, you're a couple years younger, but man, you can rebuild the engine, you can wax the body, but the suspension is going and it's
not
just
easy.
and back and everything. It hurts picking up socks. I'm done.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
Oh,
And that gets to my point. Uh, like today at work, I was showing Guy pictures of, Phil Heath and me talking to him, and like his arm is like this, and I'm like this next to him. I used to train. I mean, I'm not training as much anymore. I had a slight injury, so and he told me, how come you trained almost all your life and you're like that, or you were better than you were, but reasonably the same size, just more defined and, muscle instead of a bit more fat. And Phil Heath is like that. I said, that's genetics.
yes.
That's the,
And anybody that says otherwise needs to look at his basketball pictures from high school and college.
yeah,
He
because,
had a
yeah,
beautifully shaped feet.
yeah, because if you been lifting your weights, or even let's say natural, all right, he would still look oh, 70% or 80% what he is, so
Yeah.
it's genetics. If everybody trained and grew, they would be the Olympia stage would have 70 competitors,
Oh,
not
easy.
15.
So funny quick story about Phil. So a few years ago when he first joined the Olympia live stream,
Yeah.
uh, Dan put us together. He said, you guys go have dinner, get to know each other. So you've got a good working relationship and a nice rapport on air. So his beautiful wife, Cherie, my wife, Amber, we all go out to dinner. And my wife is just staring at him for 2 hours and engaged with them and loving them. They're super sweet people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Say our goodbyes. We take a picture. We give hugs. We walk away. And she leans into me. She says, so do you not work forearms?
Yeah. His
Yeah, I
forearms,
work
it's
for him. They
true.
just don't look like Phil Heath.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, one guy came next to him in Malta. He's like the biggest bodybuilder. He outsized him width-wise, like not like the 3D effect. He's still young, this guy, but
Yeah.
then Phil told what's next to him. He said, "But you don't have these, and his calves just came out like this." And I was like,
Oh
"What?"
yeah.
But it's genetics. I
Yeah.
mean. Uh, we can train as much as we want, do whatever you have to do, and if you're gonna stay in the same place, you're just, I mean, you do what you can do, you enjoy it, and
Yeah.
we leave the other guys to fight for the Olympia titles.
Well, and when you think about genetics too, you think, oh, it's just what they take and her supplementation.
Nah, no,
If that was the case, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, he would have started to transform instead of saying so beautiful in his physique for the last 4 years.
of course, he's the same. If you look
It's
at
the
him,
same.
he's
Yeah.
like, well, okay, let's say 6 weeks out from a show that will probably win. You know,
Yeah.
You know, the Olympia maybe will have a hard
Who
time.
knows?
You never know, but
Yeah.
he's not far off. He's not far off. He's a bit smaller, yes, but he's not far off.
No, but it's an interesting thing. Everybody else wants to talk about who was the GOAT, who was the greatest of
Yeah,
all time.
yeah, yeah.
Cannot ever compare the jumping ability of Magic Johnson to LeBron James. You can't compare the Lee Haney physique to the
No,
Phil Heath to the Sean Roden
no,
to the
no.
Samson Dauda. It's just a progression that just cannot be
Yeah,
compared over time.
no, no. When you see them, like you say, wow, look at Lee Haney. That's amazing. Then
Oh,
you fast forward a bit and you see, Dorian, and then you see like, Ronnie Coleman, you say, God, what can be better than that? Then, obviously, Jay Cutler comes along, and then, Jay Cutler, fantastic as well, and then you have Phil Heath, and it's like, wow, that's it just, there's an evolution for each guy, so you can't really say who's the best ever. You can't really
no,
say
and
that.
I always hear I love the Cutler cast. I love
Yeah,
Jay.
yeah,
Such a
yeah,
huge fan. And I
yeah,
love to hear him. He starts to go old school. Lee was great.
yeah,
Ronnie was his own beast. Of course, Phil was next level. I love that guy,
yeah.
how he trained.
Yeah, it's true. They don't even know what they're gonna. So, you competed, you got where you wanted to get. So, father time, the family, the kids,
Yeah.
they get bigger. The focus moves a bit. All of a sudden, I don't know if I'm jumping a big space. Olympia TV.
Yeah, right around in the middle of that, in the middle
Yeah.
of competing. There was 2 of the last 4 years that I competed that were Olympia TV years.
Wow. Yeah, I
And
remember that. Yeah,
we've always
that's
been kind of in talks to do something new and take that whole thing to the next level.
yeah,
Jake Wood he's a visionary, while at the
yeah,
same time, at the base of it, where you can tell what he's done with the women's divisions, he's a fan.
yeah.
Just
That's
like
it.
Dan, he's
Yeah,
a fan, and he wanted to
yeah,
bring back all the divisions to the stage. He wants everybody honored. But when he did it, he said, I want this to be ESPN quality. So we've got this beautiful video wall and the anchor
yeah,
desk. Everybody brings top-notch wardrobe, and it's a 3 camera shoot with graphics in and out. So it's really from my TV experience, because I worked on TV, live TV for 20 years in the middle of all this nonsense, to come into the studio and say, this is legit. All
yeah,
right.
yeah. It's really
We'd like to bring the respect of that part to the sport and be that
exactly,
outlet that
exactly.
actually we never, this is some important things too. Where there's so much clickbait and this guy was a shame, he
Yeah,
should hire from the sport. We always want to be at least saying, hey, he wasn't at his peak, he wasn't how he
that's it.
was in 2018, or he's 3 weeks out, but he's going to be better at the next. We always want to make sure that we're leaving these athletes that are our athletes
Yeah,
from our sport
yeah,
with something positive and not just constantly tearing down.
exactly. We can't criticize. I mean, Patrick Moore. He had a bad week. He came back and he placed a second. Against an amazing Tim Burton,
Yeah.
right? And then you
Well,
have Blessing.
yes.
At the moment, he didn't come at his best, but we know what he's capable of. So in his next show, I don't know which one he's going to do next, we might find a fantastic Blessing, right?
And you know what he didn't need? It's like, when you screw up. You shoot
Yeah.
a basketball and it misses. You don't need 4,000 people online to
No,
say,
no,
"Oh, you
no,
missed that one, didn't you?"
no, no.
Blessing was in the lobby walking back with his wife and the
Yeah,
beautiful daughter,
yeah.
and he said, "I'm really sorry." And I said, "You don't have to apologize to me.
No.
You know what to do. You go back to the drawing board. That's why you're
Yeah,
a champion.
yeah,
That's how you got here."
yeah,
So he knows, and he's going to be better. And all these guys are fighters. They
yeah.
lose one fight, they're going back and they're going to
Of
train
course.
extra hard, kick
Of
somebody's
course,
ass.
of course. It's not like, he's a busy man. Now he has a family and everybody loves him on social media. So, he does the competitions. He came off. The next time he'll come, he'll probably, um, get the placing he needs to even qualify for the Olympia.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what,
Yeah. Absolutely.
that's what the Olympia TV. Now, how long has it been on?
We're
Two.
in our fourth season.
All right. Wow. And
I know.
the show is entertaining. Chris is laid back, Mr. Cool, and he says what he has to say. And um what's his name on the other side? That
Derek.
Derek. He's he kills me sometimes, when even the intro to promote the supplements. What's wrong with Nick? He needs to take this, and then he needs to take this, and it's the right way to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
and you know, there's a lot of jokes going around, but the point gets put out there. The message gets put out there. I mean, even something light, like light. He'll probably kill me if I say it was light. Like Milos, when you guys
Yeah.
picked him as Mr. Classic Physique, he's been saying it everywhere now. You know, I
Oh,
was
yeah.
picked as the best classic physique. That's it. The mind. Now it's Mr. Classic Physique.
Well, we just had him. Chris has been traveling all over the world.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
Camp
yeah,
Cormier going. He got caught up 1 week in FIBO and couldn't get back. So we
yeah.
had Milos on for he's going to be on for the next 4 episodes.
Wow. All right.
And
The
I
suit.
just hear Milos going, "Team, this is beautiful place that you
Yeah.
built for me in this studio. I'm Mr. Classic Physique. I don't know if you know this. I'm beautiful from the waist." He kills
It's
me.
true. And this is what he needed, because obviously 2 weeks before he was a madman on social media. I mean, with Bob Ciccarello one way, and then
Yeah.
on Ron Harris's show, he's
With
going at,
with Giles.
yeah, and then you see the video of Ron is like, when is this going to end? Because I interviewed him a week after, and I said,
Okay.
Ron, yeah, and he said, Kev, I'm telling you, he said this was crazy, but that's Milos. He's passionate, and
Yeah.
nobody can deny that. I've known him a while, and I used to way back help him a bit with social media and stuff, and he's passionate about the sport.
Well, that goes back to, and a lot of guys need to learn this. This is the thing that Phil Heath had to deal with because he was at the very beginning of social media.
Yeah, yeah,
And no one was there to tell you these are trolls, these are haters. They
yeah,
didn't have a name yet. It was all very personal.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
still is to an extent, but luckily I have cooler, more mature heads that will call
of
up and go,
course.
"Please give this 48 hours. Someone else is going to say something more stupid than you just did.
Yeah,
Give
yeah,
it a minute."
yeah.
People are all over it.
No, it's true. It's true. And it depends who says it. Like if I said something, they'll say, he's always negative, or he's full of crap. That's the guy that does that. And then if a guy, for example, Mr. Olympia says it, he's right. I just
The
said that
same
2 weeks
thing.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
But because he's Mr. Olympia and I'm me, nobody takes notice. But it is what it is, and that's why we're gonna get into the next segment. That's
What a
related.
segue. What a segue,
Yeah,
Kevin.
that's
Nice job.
related to that. Let's say not your outburst. I mean, you were passionate about what you said about social media influencers. Giving the wrong impression, let's say it like that, to the younger athletes.
Yes. Now, I will say, and it's interesting, there's a lot of different ways we're going to want to go with this, but a lot of the blowback that surprised me was from people our age that should know better.
Yeah.
People who have had heart attacks, who have had issues, who have been staring at the ceiling in a hospital saying, "I hope this isn't the last day. I got things I need to do."
Yeah. Yeah.
That said, one of them in particular said not to me, but in a video to me, it's not like he's telling people what to do and eat and take. He's not telling them. it's naive not to think that's the very nature of what an influencer is. That's the reason brands attach themselves to them, because just by inference, they're influencing.
Yeah.
That's what an influencer is. You got someone like a Kardashian that's getting paid $1 million a tweet. She doesn't have to say, I live and breathe to take this toothpaste. But when
Yeah.
she says it,
Yeah.
300,000 people go out and buy the toothpaste.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we have 300,000 people going out to find trend in their locker room.
Yeah.
So
That
that's where it gets dangerous.
Yeah, that's what I can't understand. I mean, I don't care what people say. I mean, you get these people, they're promoting something that can kill you, all right? And they glorify them. And that's what I can't understand, you know. Or you know, you see a person eating whatever, okay, a bad diet, or you know, they're off season, but they're eating, you know, burgers and all this stuff. And the young kids will say, ah, so that's how you get that big. No, he didn't get big like that. He got big because he's doing other things. And today, the same influencers will talk on other shows and say what they do, you know. But but the young generation will only watch their channel. They won't know about all these other channels on YouTube, you know, that
No, and they're seeing in this generation. I don't know how it is in Canada or Malta, but I can tell you how it is in the United States. You've got an entire generation, the Gen Z, lower millennials,
yeah, yeah,
that see a guy that is showing his workouts. He has a couple of
yeah,
hamburgers, some
yeah,
shakes,
yeah, yeah,
driving a cool car. They know he's making a ton of money. He's
yeah,
getting his picture taken with the coolest guys.
yeah,
He's got sponsors, and they're thinking, this is my path.
yeah.
Well, that path isn't going to last for you very long in a very
No,
healthy manner. And it's
no,
not going to last for very long for that guy either.
no.
And my passion is not just for the young people that were coming up to me saying, hey, coach, is this what I should do?
Yeah,
My passion is also for him. And as much as it angered some family members or them, let's just call it them,
yeah,
if I could talk to each of them and just say, hey, I know you only live once, and that's a big
yeah,
mantra
yeah,
now. And I
yeah,
know that some pro did the same thing when he was your age, but I
yeah,
can show you 4 pros that also did that are no longer with us, that were
yeah,
amazing with great
exactly.
potential.
Yeah,
And I just don't feel comfortable, at least not being someone to say, here's all the sides. Make
yeah,
your own decision. That's on you.
yeah,
But if no one has told you yet, this is a
yeah.
dangerous route.
And and
And
and some people, um, they think some of these pros take so much stuff, which actually they don't take that much because their genetics kick in and they become what they become. And then you get some guy that he can't get any bigger than he is, and they just keep taking and taking and taking until their body gives out, you know.
yeah,
And then, you know, this guy passed away at 30. Ah, you're gonna start with it, you know, blaming it on that or on that. Well, what did he how did he, you know,
yeah,
that I can't understand it, you know. And then that's what we can now move into that. Lee Haney,
yes.
yesterday or the day before on the Muscle Discord, it was a fantastic interview. Lee Haney made a comment that bodybuilding has to be how do you say? What was the word?
Reset.
Reset. Has to be reset. And nobody knew what he was talking about. And on the Muscle Discord with Chris Cormier, and he said it's like comes down to even, I mean, Lee was he was on point. I mean, on point. He wasn't hiding anything. He said it starts even from the judges, you know, awarding. I mean, I'm not calling out any judges. I'm saying what he said. The judges saying that's okay to have that physique. He said, in my day, that physique wouldn't even place in the top 10 or, for example, like that. And I mean, what I was shocked about was basically he said what you said. He said what you said, you know, he wants athletes, the young teenagers, to train because bodybuilding, what people is forgetting about, it is to look good and to look, you know, defined, balanced, you know, aesthetic, but to maintain a healthy life.
Yeah.
And he's saying that healthy part is somehow lost, you know?
And that was the original Joe Eater aspiration, to
Yeah,
have that masculine physique, that alpha male physique.
yeah,
But here are the ways to eat and the ways to do this and the ways to do that. To not just, I love this phrase I've used for years in workshops. Don't just add years to your life. add life to your years so that
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing more activities in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And that's the point of being that beautiful 60, 70-year-old man that
yeah,
has this owned disciplined physique.
yeah,
You mentioned it earlier. One guy will say something and he's a pariah, and Mr.
yeah,
Olympia says it 3 weeks later, and
yeah,
everybody goes,
yeah,
"Oh, yeah, I'm totally on board with
yeah.
that."
Now,
Hey, say it more, Lee. I'm done. To go,
yeah,
Mr.
no, and even he got to the point. I mean, I was looking for bits to play maybe, but it's so long, and I don't want to cut things out to say, oh, you just picked that part. It's a good 10 minutes of Lee Haney ranting, and it's even like I have so much on my mind. The 2-on-2 Mr. Olympia. Uh,
Oh, the Keon.
Keon.
Yeah, he talked
Everybody
about
wants him to go up
no.
to the open class. And Lee said that is where the problem is. Everybody's telling him to gain 20 pounds or 10 pounds to go
Yeah.
into the open class. He says that's where it goes wrong. He said you cannot put all that weight on that size of a frame. If it was, Samson Doada, that's all right
Yeah.
because he's a monster. 10, I actually, some people say he should go down a bit and, get more defined. But, anyways,
Yeah, I agree.
and he said that's where the sport, he said that's where the people that judge, telling him, you should, some pundits add 10 pounds, 20 pounds and move up to the open class. Instead of telling him, you're perfect as you are, either keep dominating the 2-1-2, go up to the open class as you are.
So here's the difficult thing. You think to yourself, okay, my longevity as an athlete in this sport is pretty limited.
Yeah, yeah,
Training and how
yeah,
much supplementation and
yeah,
diet, how hard
yeah,
I can go from my off-season weight to my stage weight,
yeah.
which is another thing I counsel these younger generation kids away from. We've learned now, you don't go up 50, 60 pounds off season.
No.
There's too much, it's too unhealthy, and
Yeah,
you've gained too much fat that is you've
yeah,
got to lose in the process.
yeah, yeah,
But here's the problem. You look at and you say, like when Derek Lunsford did his Pittsburgh Pro guest
yeah,
posing
yeah, yeah,
and blew everybody's mind, and they said, this guy's got to be open. And Dan gave him the special invitation.
yeah, yeah,
And he proved that he was worthy of being there and then some,
yeah.
but made more coming in that placing than he did winning the 212.
Okay. Yeah,
I've only got so many years to make this money for my
yeah.
family.
I
I
I
got to
can.
maximize this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So something's got to give in that realm. And right now,
yeah,
the big dogs are going back and forth to see how much money they can throw
yeah.
at things.
Of course.
So it's a difficult spot for your mind to
No,
think,
no.
okay, Kevin has a beautifully balanced physique.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
with 10 more pounds, could he make an extra $100,000?
yeah. That's the thing. Or will it ruin his physique?
Yeah.
Or what does he have to do to get there? Now, Lee Haney said as well, I mean, it could be 8 or 9 or let's say 10 pounds. From his first Olympia till his last, he only went up 10 pounds. And these guys, they're, not these, some people post on social media in the off season, I'm 310 pounds. And the guy is like, you know, not
Five
the
eight?
tallest.
No, 5'7".
Yeah, you can't, don't tell me they get up in the morning and walk and they're not feeling tired, you
No,
know?
you need to take a nap after putting on your shoes.
Yeah,
Here's
it's
the
not,
thing, and I'm going to tell the young guys this. If you don't know this, your body, the human body is so amazing. It's
yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah,
But it's a plus and a minus right here. When you put on all this exercise, this is where that myocarditis, the enlarging of the heart comes in because
yeah,
your heart will actually gain extra abilities to fund blood for all that mass you put
yeah,
on, whether it's fat or muscle,
yeah,
especially muscle. Your body's going to say, well, I'm 280, 290 now. I got to get bigger to take care of this body.
yeah, yeah,
If you get back down to 230, you've still got the same size heart.
yeah,
Down
yeah,
to 228, your stage weight, you still got the same size heart. For the
yeah,
rest of your life, you've got this enlarged heart. And
yeah,
I know this personally.
yeah,
And my doctor flat out said, I said, I'm worried about myocarditis from the vaccine. He said, don't worry about it. You've already got it.
yeah, yeah,
What do you mean? And I said, there was one off season alone. I went from 185 on stage to 232.
yeah.
And I didn't put on 49 pounds of muscle and 3 pounds of fat. I put on
No.
3 pounds of muscle and 49 pounds of fat.
And people don't, they see, like I say, they see the outside of things. Ah, this guy looks perfectly healthy when he's on stage. Look at that physique, but listen, it's there's a lot behind it, which is how, I mean, I'm not saying in the 80s and 90s there weren't these problems. because so obviously there was no social media back then, and we didn't know about everything and what a person was going through. Today, everything's in the open, I mean, but
Girlfriend's life, debt,
yeah,
car accidents.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and like, but Lee just kept going on, and I was like, he's really passionate about what he's saying. He'll get criticized, huh? I'm sure he'll get criticized this week. There'll be bits and parts everywhere,
He
even though
will, but
he's 8-time Mr. Olympia, we respect him, but listen, now there's 750 grand at one show and 600 at another, or it might be 900 or a million. Who knows? But some people will go that extra mile to get that paycheck. But
yeah.
then at the end of the day, is it worth it?
Yeah, and that's what every generation needs to figure out for themselves.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, is this worth it? Now, another big controversy around that same time was when they're talking about the prize money, and Linda Murray came out, and of course,
yeah.
you got the younger generation saying,
And
"Who's
he
this?"
talked about it as well. Yeah, yeah,
Yes, and I think it's really valid as someone who's a big lover of the sport and a physique athlete. And Ali Bilal had some issues with what he made in his payment this year
yeah. Oh
to win
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
big show,
yeah,
which was understandable.
yeah.
I think and they say, the open class is the premier class.
It is.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, yeah,
But if
yeah,
you don't respect the fact that even on the NPC local level, there are 6 to 12 bodybuilders in a 120 person show, and
yeah,
everybody else is physique, classic physique, bikini,
yeah.
wellness, figure. Those are the divisions that are supporting your ability to have an open at an international level.
Exactly, exactly.
So we have to make sure that everybody's paid well enough
Yeah,
that it's an actual, because the
yeah,
big sponsors aren't there anymore. It's
yeah.
it's more
No,
limited,
no.
more athletes for fewer dollars.
Yeah,
So it's a very important thing to make sure that everybody across the board is respected
yeah,
and compensated in a way they at least feel
yeah,
respected.
yeah. I mean, getting back to Ali, Arnold is Arnold, and you can expect him to say those things. I mean, the board shorts, and next year they'll be with pajamas, and
Yeah.
I mean, saying that the IFBB in Europe, there's a class, men's men fitness model. They come out with jeans and a dress coat and without a shirt underneath.
So
So, but
it's abs and chin.
abs, they wear a jacket,
Yeah.
and I think they might come out with, I know, showing their physique. No, no, it's pants and jeans, like tight jeans, and
Yeah.
I'll send you photos after the show,
And
and
how do I
they
get in?
listen,
How
they
do I
sign
get
up
into
for
this?
it. These guys sign up for it. Let me tell you why. Some guy might have an injury, or might have a scar, or might have something, or
Yeah.
they're not confident. But listen, it's like more of a model thing. But they
Yeah.
do it, you
Yeah.
know. So it's like as well, there's the women's fit model. They come out in a one-piece bikini. So usually the older women do it. They
Yeah.
might not feel comfortable in a two-piece. Then they come out with a night dress, a nightgown, an evening dress,
Yeah.
showing a lot of leg. So they come out twice and they get judged on whatever. I don't know how they judge them. I mean, it's very difficult, but
Yeah.
and there are a lot of women doing that as well in Europe. It's amazing. It's amazing. What would Arnold say about that? I mean,
The older ladies need to stay covered up.
yeah.
They're not as beautiful when they get older. And the guys, you want to say, okay, this guy doesn't have legs. He should be
Yeah.
wearing pants, horrible calves. Horrible. You look at him,
Yeah.
he's got nothing.
Yeah. I mean, um, it is what it is. He says he says, he says certain things, I mean, he means well. He's an old-fashioned guy. You
Yeah.
can't tell, Arnold, bodybuilding, for him it's bodybuilding. I mean, Lee Haney comes from an era as well. The taller bodybuilder will always dominate the smaller bodybuilder. He had that, he believed in that Arnold, Robbie Robinson, Frank Zane physique, which he
Yeah.
managed to combine. Okay. And then after, I think Lee Haney was the last from Arnold's era up to Haney. Okay. Then
Yes.
Dorian came and the bodybuilding were just freaked out. It went from aesthetics, nice detailed balance, and then Dorian Yates came, and just size. To beat
The
Dorian, you
first
have to
true
get
mass
bigger.
monster.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
birth of the mass monster.
yeah. And as Lee pointed out, to get on, he said, then, Phil Heath, brought some balance back, free, 3D size, but it was there. There was that balance. But then Sean Roden came, and everybody thought that bodybuilding will go in a different direction.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what happened, then,
Yeah.
Brandon Curry took his reign, which was still, on the balance, that nice, it's a easy physique to look at,
Yeah.
not many weak points, everything's in the right place.
And Big Ramy came back and put it
Then Big
right back
Ramy
where
came
it
and
was.
freaked out everybody again, I mean,
Yeah.
so now we're into the shorter, bigger guys, like Lee, I and then now we have Samson. So, the
Yeah.
taller guy, which is, more balanced. But now we have to see what happens, because this year was a bit of a roller coaster after the
With the
Arnold.
Arnold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have Hardy, waiting to come over. Hopefully he'll get a flight over, with everything that's happening. And
Yeah.
he makes it there, Mr. Shredded. Okay.
Yeah.
And we see what happens. But what I think Lee might get criticized about, he mentioned all these bodybuilders, Samson, Hardy, Derek. Who else did he mention?
Nick.
I think no, he said then he cannot see Nick. I think he thinks Nick is too big for his physique. I'm not saying he doesn't think Nick doesn't look good.
Yeah.
I think he's saying too much on him, on his size, on his frame. I don't know how tall he is, but I don't know if he's much taller than Derek. I mean, the
He's
picture.
about an inch or two taller than Derek.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is going to be interesting to see this year.
Yeah.
Whether or not Nick can crack the top 3 is going to be the issue with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
aesthetics and conditioning of the other 2 guys.
Yeah.
Nick's got a pose or 2 he's going to steal. You saw where he went back and forth with Derek.
Yeah.
And how was that tie?
Yeah.
If he's that much better than Derek in any one of those poses, he takes 2 points.
Yeah.
Hadi takes the side chest and the abs and thighs,
The front,
and Samson takes his poses.
Yeah.
It's going to screw everything up in the most exciting way.
Exactly. And it's unfortunate that Nick is always the guy that's called out on things. I feel sorry for the guy, because he has such a huge physique. He is a mute. He's a freak. And people like that, especially on the marketing side. I hope he's doing well, because a guy like Lee will never see a physique like that pleasing. I mean, I know it's bad. It's bad to say, but Lee will not see a physique like that.
Kevin, what I like in it too?
Sorry?
What I like in it too is generationally, it's like music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lee was from an era where Earth, Wind, and Fire was the top band.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Nick is just rock and roll, hard, thrashy rock and roll. So it's hard for someone for that generation to look at something that hard as not being pure music.
Yeah.
When, a rock fan looks at Nick and goes, "That's my guy right there."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, another good thing that Lee pointed out, or I mean, a major point is he said, what will happen to the bodybuilders then? And what maybe some judges might tell them that's wrong. He'll say, you got to be drier to beat that guy. So then Lee says, so you're telling a guy to stop drinking water and do whatever else he has to do? That's not healthy. And he pointed that out.
No, there's another issue though. And this is a great lesson for the fans that are still competing. And we just talked about this on one of the episodes with Milos. So often coaches are getting scientific with water, trying to pull water to create dryness.
Yeah.
And you go, wow, how did they do it back in the 90s during the golden era? They didn't do it with water. They did it with cardio.
Yeah.
If you pull water and you're not lean enough, you're just going to pull the skin against the fat and you're never going to see those hottie obliques and serratus.
Yeah.
Hottie gets so lean through effort. You've
Yeah.
got to get that low in body fat and
Yeah.
have that kind of muscle underneath to push up. It's got nothing to do with water. At the end, it's just minutia. It's a tiny bit.
Yeah.
It's going to be the rest of it just being far leaner than people say. Oh, I got to pull water. No, you had to pull about 3 more weeks worth of Stairmaster.
Yeah.
You need to pull some more cardio and then pull a little water, and you're going to look glorious.
It taxes the physique. I mean, the internal. It's dangerous.
I have some stories with that. It's very dangerous.
Yes.
But the other thing is you need that water to inflate the muscles to push them to the surface, to pull the carbs into the muscle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't want to get terribly scientific, but you're right. It's toxic to go that low on water.
Yeah.
And they go out and pose.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is you've just got to be leaner.
Yeah.
Leaner and fuller.
Yeah. I mean, Lee said back then they didn't really, I mean, they were shredded, but they preferred the aesthetics and to look fuller and you know, not to have that it wasn't really the main point to come in really, you know, Hadi Chupan looking. You know what I mean? There wasn't too many like that back then.
I can't think of hardly any. It wasn't a striated glute and oblique contest.
Yeah. I mean, Hadi Chupan, if they think that he's like that now, I have photos of him when he was competing in the World Championships, a little lightweight guy or middleweight. He was the same way, just much smaller, you know?
Wow.
He was chiseled, you know, but it's, as again, the way we say it, genetics, you know?
Genetics. I'm so glad you circled back. It's genetic.
I mean, I mean, I've been to a number of events in Europe in the World Championships and stuff. When you see the guys from Iran and the Arabic states and stuff, I don't know what they have there. The genetics of these guys from amateur level going up, it's unbelievable.
You've got the Behruz Tabani, but there's another new guy coming out of Iran that's amazing.
Yeah.
There is something genetic, and I don't know if I need to start eating more dates or what it is,
No.
but something they're doing over there it's good.
Listen, I mean, in Europe, all right, we have all the sports, you know, there's football, soccer, you know, there's Formula One, there's a million sports to like, tennis and all these things. But some countries, it's bodybuilding. It's something they can do. And there's like, it's easier to move up with bodybuilding. So they are adored, you know. And and one thing I want that connects to that with Ali, that he said in one of his rants, he said, why is men's physique so popular? And many people, especially in America and Canada, they don't understand this. And even certain bodybuilding contests in the Arabic states, they wear the men's physique shorts, the tight, like the 70s look. Remember that they're a bit, they cover the butt.
Yeah.
Why do they wear that? Religion. It's against the law to. So that's why he said, how do you expect me to compete if I cannot compete as a bodybuilder? You cannot expose yourself like that in the public.
Yeah.
So everybody, they come out with men's physique. That's what they can compete with because a portion of their body is covered. So do you blame these guys for having super fantastic upper bodies? They still have leg development, but they prefer men's physique because they can practice that openly in their country.
Well, there's another issue across the world that the men's physique, and this is the reason it was created, because things were really taking a turn in the open division, is to have that attainable, well, aspirational.
Exactly.
Not attainable, because I'm a big Ryan Terry fan, and I'll never get there. But
exactly.
to have that aspirational physique of being the ultimate guy on the beach.
Yeah, that's it.
Be that guy by the city pool that takes off his shirt. And as an open bodybuilder, you take off that shirt and they go, what's wrong with that guy?
And that's what Lee said. He said the teenagers today want to look like Chris Bumstead, which is still out of this world.
Out of this world.
It's like what magazine cover sold in the past? Frank Zane. You know, when he was on the cover, everybody would say, you know, I can do that. Maybe a bit smaller, but I can. You put Arnold back then, Roberto Fox. You're like, what the hell is that? You know, how am I going to be like that? What do these guys do? You know, so the men's physique really was, but as well as evolution, look at them now. they bodybuilders
In board shorts.
in board shorts. And
So
the
to the
condition,
evolution from Jeremy Buendia
yeah,
to like I won't say Aaron Banks, but like a Brandon Richardson,
yeah,
or I'm trying to
yeah,
think of a couple of these massive guys like an Alex Woodson. I can go
yeah,
pretty deep into men's
yeah,
physique guys.
yeah.
They're massive. If you took their board shorts away and there's guys that I say, and I'm glad they implemented the weight limit.
Yeah.
That there's guys that if you took off their board shorts and put them on the scale to make sure they wouldn't make classic,
No.
because they do have leg development and they do have massive upper bodies.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they're making sure that this
Yeah.
is scaled back down.
And I don't, the NPC didn't start, the IFBB in Europe as well have muscular men's physique. So the guys that are a bit overboard but don't want to compete as bodybuilders, they made a division for them as well. And these guys are are literally bodybuilders that really don't have much leg development. I mean, it's unbelievable, I mean, everything. It's like the bikini class. Now they started, what do they call it in the MP? Fitness,
Fit model.
fit model.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, the women have to be careful because they'll end up becoming Ashley Kaltwazers, you know what I mean? And on smaller level. So, everybody's going to want to get better, so.
Tarek has talked about something very interesting over the years. And you talk about the progression of a bodybuilder. You look at someone like Logan Franklin, who started off in men's physique.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then moved up, and now he is where he is.
Yeah.
And that's just the genetic progression of your body saying, I've outgrown this division. I've got people like she's like my kid. I love this girl, Natalia Coelho.
Okay.
The women's physique, former women's physique Olympia, started out in bikini.
Yeah.
And then to figure, and then to women's physique, because she outgrew, her body just said, I'm going up there.
Yeah.
So that's understandable. Those are natural progressions, but they've got to maintain the integrity of the class to say this is the top of that class, or you've just pushed into, you think where Natalia and Sarah Villegas would have been Miss Olympia up until about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It would have been the open class women's bodybuilding champ. And now you've got these guys that are in the 212 and the classic that would have been Mr. Olympia up till about 1983.
Yeah.
So I understand there's a progression. NASCAR is not going 120 miles an hour. Formula One's not doing 150 anymore. They're doing 250.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, for the aesthetics and the safety of the sport, it's got to be. I'm with Lee. It's got to be kind of put into a place.
Yeah. And then, like I said, like Lee said, it comes from the guys that do the numbers on the judging sheet. They have the responsibility to show what direction the sport really has to go as well, because they pick what the ideal physique is. Do you pick a man's monster, a freak, or do you pick the the athletic looking, aesthetics, balance, the right definition and stuff like that? It's a big responsibility. And maybe with Lee Haney saying this, some people higher up might open their eyes and say, listen, we have to push the sport in the right way, because he's right. He is right, but
he's very right. But in theory, the way they do that every year and how they reward that is each Mr. or Miss Olympia in their respective divisions becomes the gold standard for judging that year.
Yeah.
If they say, like they did with Samson, this is really what we're after.
Yeah.
It will really force people. And, they judge, I get this. They can only judge who's on stage.
Yeah.
They can't judge them against Samson when he's not there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of affects things. But it's that talk after the show that the athletes have with the judges to say, hey, how do I improve? I just qualified for the Olympia. How do I get better? And they've got to say, hey, you don't need 10 more pounds. Everybody's thought is, if I'm going to win, I got to get bigger.
Yeah.
People have failed to realize, like you said with Samson earlier, would he be better 10 pounds lighter? You're going to look 20 pounds bigger, 10 pounds lighter.
It's an illusion.
Illusion.
It's like, what people say, it's not how much you lift in the gym, it's how you lift and how you train. Nobody's on stage asking you if you lift 600 pounds or whatever, what squats you do and things like that,
Quarter turn to the right, what's your bench?
Yeah. And speaking about this of Lee and the rants and what's not good for the younger generation, going back to my experience, when I was training at Henderson Thorne's gym in Toronto, and there was Laura Cravel next to me doing a leg press with this physique, with her blonde. She had that blonde hair.
Blonde dreads, the braids.
She was, I think, just getting out there, one of the top, me, I'm there 17 years old, and I was there alone. She was training and Henderson was coming in and out of his office. And I went up to him as the kid I was, how do I become like you? Now, this is the difference from 1987, 88 to 2025. How do I become like you? You know what he told me? He was alone there. He could have told me anything. Go to McDonald's and eat those burgers. Eat your spaghetti, eat your mother's food, and train every day.
Wow.
That's what he told me. He didn't mention anything. He didn't mention you have to do this, you have to buy, take
Yeah.
this or, do this every evening and nothing. Now, this is a top pro back then, an Olympian. He didn't tell me anything. There's that responsibility, you know. I'm not going to take the responsibility to screw up this kid's life. And another time, I was at another gym and there was this Portuguese man, construction worker. Uh, he was in his late 40s, I guess. Fantastic physique. He had, there's some guys like they wear a t-shirt and all you want to have, you don't care about the chest. You want to have their arms, you
Yeah.
know. Like Reagan Grimes, you see him with a t-shirt. It's like that's cool, that's a
Yeah.
cool look. And I asked him, how do you get vast? You know what he told me? Drink a bit of vino before you come to the gym. It makes the blood a bit, thinner. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. He didn't take me in a room and tell me what to do. You know,
Yeah.
it's obvious that he did something, or it could be genetics.
Well,
Uh,
some of it's genetics and
yeah,
leanness and natural vascularity, but
yeah,
that was the thing we all did back in the 80s and
yeah,
90s before a competition. In the
yeah,
morning, you had 4 ounces of wine or 2 ounces of
yeah,
wine that brought
yeah,
all the veins to the surface.
yeah, yeah. But today you go to a gym, the first day they're there, take this, take that, take this, take that. These guys don't even know what a weight is. Their muscle didn't even mature enough. And that's what's wrong, you know.
Yeah.
And the parents don't know the kids are taking these. These are kids.
Yeah.
These are kids. And then when something happens and then they find out, all hell breaks loose, but it's too late, you know.
Yeah.
Who's going to take responsibility? Nobody.
I coach. That's why I've been coaching and mentoring the last 3 to 5 years. Why I'm so passionate about these kids. I've got boys and girls that are coming to me every day. Coach, what do I do about this? I got the
Yeah. Yeah.
Division one offer in this sport, but they want me to be 10 pounds bigger. How do I get there? And the first thing I always do is I said, I can't write you a diet knowing that you're not going to stick to it. It wastes both of our time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want you to track everything you eat for the next 3 days. And I'll tell you, first and foremost, I know you're not eating enough and you practice 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
So we start by increasing their calories. Like you said,
Yeah.
it could be spaghetti, mama. It could be 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going
Yeah.
to tell you, eat 2 cups of rice and 6 ounces of chicken breast because they're not going to do it.
No, no.
But by the end of the 12 weeks, I'm slowly dialing in and I've got them disciplined enough to even eat. And then I'm tightening up their diet.
Yeah.
But that's where every kid should start, male and
Yeah.
female.
Yeah.
Make sure you're getting enough, then make it quality, then slowly
Yeah.
make it better quality and more food.
Yeah.
And eventually down the road, look at your goals and say,
Yeah.
how far do I want to take my sport, my bodybuilding,
Yeah.
whatever it is?
Yeah.
And what am I willing to sacrifice? And what's at the end of this for me? Is
Yeah.
it social media likes? Is it a
Yeah.
plastic trophy? What
Yeah.
am I sacrificing to get to that point?
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, going full circle, the way the world is today, you get two guys or whatever they call themselves, and not to mention names. If they have all the followers and companies see that they can get exposure with them, unfortunately, that's what works for many people. They take the risky road, but if they are taking the risky road, don't promote it on other people. That's the thing.
Well, and
Especially,
I'd like to snatch those kids up and, like you said, everybody said earlier, give them the right path so they have it as an option. But at the same time, I'd like to snatch them up and say, okay, your life expectancy doing this
yeah,
before something gives out is 3.5 to 6 years.
yeah,
At least let me help you financially so that you know at the end of it, you have anything to show for it.
yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of times you got these guys that work their whole lives and they're a trainer at 48 with a broken down joints and a bad heart.
yeah,
And I'd like to at least tell these kids, hey, call me, direct message me. I'll guide you in the right way to make sure at least you're financially taken care of. Because at the end of the day, I guess I'm trying to be everybody's dad. I don't know
yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm
No,
going
no.
on. I just want everybody to be okay. It
Yeah,
really, I'm passionate about that.
yeah, it comes with experience, and obviously the older you get, the more time to see people, unfortunately, leaving us, moving on, and that's when you start to think, listen, we have to take care of ourselves, unfortunately, certain things that some people do in the past uh, creep up, like even just training, it creeps up on you, and you're trying
Yeah.
to stay healthy. Joints, back pain, shoulders, the knees, it's all, I mean, the body is gonna say, listen, now it's my turn to pay back,
So, well, this is an important lesson for anybody listening too. So, the first weekend working with Chris Cormier, the first week that we did episodes, first of all, I walk in and he's sitting in the lobby of the hotel waiting for two separate DoorDash people to bring him amazing food.
Yeah,
He had
yeah,
lobster tails and a steak coming from like Benihana's and sushi coming from another place. I mean, this
yeah,
guy eats.
yeah,
But the next day, he said, "What are you doing later today?" I said, "I'm going to go to the gym. You mind if I go with you?" You damn right, let's go.
yeah,
We get in the gym the first day, and the first thing Chris says to me is, "Are you pretty strong?" And for 52, I said, "Yeah, I'm pretty strong." He said, "You're not going to be when you're doing it right." And that kind of hit me, but he had this thing where up until 43, he was a stubborn young bull. And for years, Dorian said, "Come train with me. I'm going to change your life." And had I been with Chris 20 years ago, I
yeah,
would have lifted lighter, better
of
with full
course,
contractions, full extensions,
yeah, yeah,
the muscle mind connection, as opposed to just saying, "Yeah, I bench 350. It
yeah,
hurts. My
yeah,
shoulders are gone. My right shoulder's gone right now. I just got a
yeah,
cortisone shot." All the things that I could have done by training and listening to somebody older and
yeah,
wiser
yeah, yeah,
would have saved all my
yeah.
joints.
It's like, I don't know if you ever seen his footage, probably did. Francis Benfato.
Oh yeah.
You ever see him train?
Oh yeah.
He goes up, then he goes down, takes it really easy, light weights, that's how he trains. And
Yeah.
when you're a young guy watching him, it's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
How did he get looking like that? Training like that. But um, that's the way we should train. That's the way people. Phil Heath, did you ever see him throwing weights around?
No. And that was another thing talking to Phil. The squeeze at the top is what
Yeah,
brings out the fibers.
yeah. I watched him train yesterday.
Oh,
He wasn't, it was a new gym, and he was training. He did some shoulders. He wasn't like racking it up,
no.
everything slow, and then the gym owner was with him, and he was training with him, and he said, so we do this like this, they always, no, he said, you have to move it like this and move your arm like this, and he barely, you can barely do 5 or 6 reps with
Do it
that
the right
weight,
way. Yeah.
so it's the experience and the knowledge, and it's not just throwing weights around,
No. Now,
so
there are some people that are so crazy strong. I did a photo shoot for Muscle and Fitness like 92, 93.
wow.
And it was my first time in the magazine. And the article was called Regular Joe Works Out with a Pro. And it was me with Ferrigno.
Wow.
And tiny me at maybe 190. Lou was 325
Wow.
all day.
Huge, huge.
And we're doing shoulder press.
Yeah,
And I grab a couple of 50s thinking I'm King Ding Dong. And I do
yeah,
a couple of reps. And Lou grabs the 150s and
yeah,
pops them up and starts pounding them out. I just said, this is next level. This is inhuman.
yeah,
He's not human.
yeah, yeah. I mean, talking about Lou, now that's a freak, He was
Yeah.
on stage, but still it flowed, you know. When you used to see him as Hercules or whatever, did you ever see a physique like that on unbelievable, So there's certain, that's the thing I think that Lee Haney was trying to get to, There has to be that balance. Don't add the extra pounds to a frame. In fact, he said if you add that pounds to Keon, he'll look like the Hulk,
Yeah.
like a midget Hulk,
Yeah.
He said leave him as is. He's perfect as is,
He
And he
really
said
is.
he believes he should stay at 212, and if he moves up to the open class, don't put any pressure on him. Leave him as B, and he'll still place well, you know.
I would like to see like when Sean Clarita did that a couple of years ago, where he just duck in and out of the open and win a couple to be a giant killer and just create a
Yeah,
legend for yourself.
yeah. Or do like they did in the past. You win the Olympia as a 212. You win the Olympia.
Yes. And then you had the pose down between the light heavyweight and the
Yeah.
heavyweight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than just saying you won your class lightweight and you won the heavyweight, label them as Mr. Olympia still, and then go for the overall Olympia.
See, I like that a lot.
So they'll still be called Mr. Olympia. That cannot be denied. But before, like Franco was lightweight winner, or well, middleweight, the short class, all right?
Yeah.
And Arnold was the heavyweight class, the tall class. And when they went there, Arnold would be the Mr. Olympia, So if they just had to do those tidbits, one guy there, you're still Mr. Olympia. And they'll get their prize money. And then who wins the overall? I don't know. Maybe they can invent something else for them. Give them a car or a belt, the overall winner,
Well, then it goes back to, okay, all this money's in the pool.
Yeah.
And you've got 250 and 250 for the top end and another 400 or 500 for the overall.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when it gets exciting. So
yeah. And
they're taking the 750 home.
Yeah. Yeah. And it shuts everybody's mouth saying, we wish to see the 212 guy against the open class. There it is. It's at the end.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, and then you got the symmetry and the beautiful aesthetics of a Keon.
Yeah. Can you imagine a Keon going up to, say, against Derek or Hadi or Samson? One guy's like this and the other guy's, down here.
Yeah.
That would be, I'm telling you, there could be an upset,
Yeah. Or we make it so that the guy, if the overall guy is the open class guy, he gets to keep the light heavyweight as a trophy.
Yeah.
He gets, because they're little in their pocket size. So he gets to pick up and he gets to keep Keon for the year at his house. It's too much. It's way too far. Don't make that clickbait. Don't get me killed.
Yeah. So if Dan's going to watch this or listen, I'll tell him about it. Listen to our idea at the end.
Phone's ringing. It's Dan. I got to go.
Yeah. Shut up. Anyways, Tim, I'm not going to keep you on forever. I don't know if you want to promote anything that you're doing or...
For 30 years, I did comedy, so I got specials all over the internet, but I actually got into promoting movies and as an executive producer a couple of years ago.
Wow.
And I've actually got one coming out today as we speak that just hit streaming on all the Apple, Amazon,
okay,
Tubi, and it's a family movie. So if you've got kids between about 7 and 12, it's one of the rare, normally you get a family movie and the whole time as a parent, you're saying, wish they hadn't said that.
Yeah.
I wish this was part of the theme.
Yeah.
It's just some funny kids with some good stars.
Okay.
Randy Couture from The Expendables is in it. Tommy Davidson from The Living Color, and Jennifer Esposito's been in a ton of stuff. She's the hot lady with the mole. And a bunch of really cute kids doing cute stuff. It's called F+. Okay. And it's just a really fun, ever since Bigger, I've been obsessed with making movies.
Fantastic.
Dan was instrumental in putting that together, not my movie, but in putting Bigger together and making that a reality.
Yeah.
And just watching that whole production take shape and watching it tell a story, I've been obsessed for 10 years.
Amazing.
So my second or third movie coming out, but it actually comes out today, June 6th. That's
F+. All right.
F+.
All right.
Good kids movie. I wouldn't say adults would be sitting around with their popcorn and their after dinner drink, but it's
I'm a movie. I love staying watching more, and once I get hooked on a series, man, I'm stuck there. I'm a binge watcher. I'll watch all the way until I can't open my eyes anymore. Who mentioned something? You're talking about films. When I was talking about with Phil about his amazing documentary, which funny enough, the producer sent me an email once asking for some info of old, competitions and stuff. And I thought it was some guy taking the piss. Yeah. And I said, what is this for? He said, it's for Phil Heath's documentary. And obviously I sent messages to Phil Heath. He was so busy, he didn't really answer them. Yeah. And it was his producer. And I sent him some stuff, and he did give me a credit at the end of the film. He wrote my last name wrong, but it's okay. I'm there, but he mentioned, Dolph Lundgren they made a documentary about him from Dolph Lundgren from Rocky.
Yeah.
And he said, what's special about this documentary, it's supposed to come out soon. There's some really heavy parts when he found out he wasn't well. We know,
Yeah.
he had I think cancer or something,
Answer, yeah.
and there was moments he found out while they were filming. So he said they really captured it, or he hopes that some parts of it come out in the next in this documentary. So, but like I mean that one of Phil, that was fantastic.
I watched it before, kind of watched it simultaneously while Phil was traveling around on the
Yeah,
promotional tour, and I
yeah,
cheer for
yeah,
all my friends because I want everybody to succeed and go
yeah,
crazy. And a
yeah,
couple days later, I was on a plane, and it was on the plane.
yeah,
So I watched it again, and I was taking
yeah,
pictures, sending it to Phil. You have no idea how exciting it is to see you on a
yeah,
plane.
yeah,
It's just simple. I'm such a child. And
yeah.
Phil's like, bro, I appreciate you. I'm on a plane.
Yeah. Well, Tim, it was great speaking to you. Maybe we can meet up again. Uh,
Kevin, thank you for having me.
yeah, or maybe I'll convince, maybe Dan come on with us and we can attack him on certain things and 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 he'll see if he can get out of it. I know
Oh,
he's
but we better come well prepared. He can talk
yeah,
his way to anything.
yeah,
He's
because
awesome.
he thinks before he talks. So
One of us.
I know he's really busy at the moment. So in the lead up to the Olympia and anyways,
Yeah,
um,
I think they start planning the next year's Olympia the Monday after the previous Olympia. So
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
task.
So good luck at any future projects. Olympia TV, it's always, exciting. And anyways, all the
Kevin, great
best.
talking with you.
All right. Let me just